Gentlemen, you are being sent in via Halo jump. Now, I realize not all of you have had hands-on experience. And frankly, none of us have ever faced a situation quite like this one before.
All right, on May 16th, Godzilla returns. Fortunately, this is not a sequel or remake of the 1998 Godzilla film with Matthew Broderick, which was, if I can borrow a page out of Chris's playbook, god-awful. No, instead, this adaptation serves as a quasi-sequel to the Japanese original Godzilla from 1954, directed by Ishiro Honda, a cult classic that spawned many sequels and spin-offs. Gareth Edwards directs his first big-budget film here and has assembled an impressive cast, which includes Breaking Bad's Bryan Cranston, Aaron Taylor-Johnson from Anna Karenina, and Elizabeth Olsen, who has had some incredible performances in smaller independent films like Martha Marcy, May Marlene, and Kill Your Darlings. Chris, the excitement for Godzilla has been enormous, and people have been waiting this film for 2 years since the announcement at Comic-Con. So, do you think the wait will have been worth it?
I really do. Really do.
Yeah.
Everything we've seen so far has been just the perfect amount of tease. It gets across the tone so beautifully well that this is not sort of that campy Matthew Broderick kind of thing. It's not totally dark, but it's borrowing some of the best elements of the original Godzilla, while super campy and dude in a suit. It's bringing those into the modern era, and it's telling a new story with them. That said, I'm a little bit worried that audiences in general are going to think that this is just part of some Pacific Rim trend. And
no.
Pacific Rim did really, really poorly. Well, not super poorly, but it did really disappointingly in American box offices.
Yeah.
And so if this falls into that category at all, I'm worried about how well it's going to perform at the box office. That said, Godzilla is a much better known name, so maybe it'll pull through. I'm looking positive. I'm definitely looking certified fresh. I'm going to say 65% with critics, but it's got some real upside potential, and $64 million.
You say Pacific Rim did really poorly domestically. I believe it made $37 million its first weekend. I don't think that's a terrible number at all.
That's less than Cloverfield though, which made $40 million, which is a great proxy.
But with a movie like that or like this, you really don't have to worry as much about American box office.
You don't,
because you have such a strong international.
That's exactly right. That's what happened with Pacific Rim. It made 75% of its money in the foreign box office.
That's true.
What's really going to help this movie along is that it really has a two-pronged approach. So as someone who doesn't go jumping up and down excited about big monster movies, they do such a good job of portraying the human element here, of talking about these people's backstories. It's not about the monster exactly. It's about the people that it affects. How do people react in a natural disaster? Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of things that I think people can really relate to, even if they can't relate to, say, a big monster coming to attack their city. And that
maybe you can't relate to
that personal element is going to go really far to get people into the seats. It's not just going to be people who want to go see another Godzilla movie. It's going to be people who want to see a movie about natural disasters, a movie about people who are surviving something that they can relate to. I think that's going to really help a lot, and it's going to differentiate it from Pacific Rim, which I did like a lot. So that being said, I'm going to go 80% and $70 million, which is better than you.
On so many levels. Fox, where do you stand?
I'm going closer to Jill on this. I think it's funny, Chris, you said 64 million, and as this is a little insight into how we do our research. So what I did was I took what Godzilla in 1998 made its opening weekend, which was 44 million, and I adjusted for inflation, and that is exactly 64 million. So, Chris, if it does that, I'm going to be sad. This should do far better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give my reverse number here. I'm sorry to do this, but 75 million. I think this is going to do really well. You also can sell this movie on the fact that you have Bryan Cranston in it and Aaron Taylor-Johnson. There are bigger names in this than there are for Pacific Rim, as much as we love Idris Elba. I think critics are really going to appreciate this and love it. I'm going to go as high as 78%, which would be fantastic for a monster movie. Yeah. Again, like I said earlier, Cloverfield came out in 77%. I have to think this is a little bit better than that. I also want to say Gareth Edwards is a first-time director. The fact that this movie is coming out in May means that Legendary Production has seen this and think it's going to be a blockbuster, and they're usually right. So I'm betting for the fences on this one.
You guys are really high. I super hope you're right, and I think I'm going to absolutely love it. My hopes are really high for it. I hope it comes through with the rest of the critics.
I'm going to say this, by the way, to everyone out there who's listening, go watch the original Godzilla before you watch this film.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get more out of this because it's a quasi-sequel, as Lauren said, to that film. So do yourself a favor. Go down to your local video store if you still have one, or buy it off Amazon. Watch the original and really have a wonderful movie experience.
And while you're at it, watch Cloverfield, because that's a spectacular movie.
And
too.
Pacific Rim. That could always use more money. Anyway.